All right, so you've hit a wall with Salesforce's standard sharing tools, right? You've got these really complex, dynamic business rules, and you're wondering, how on earth do I grant access based on this? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to unlock a seriously powerful developer tool, Apex Managed Sharing. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about that wall, the limits of standard sharing. Then we'll introduce the programmatic way to knock it down. We're going to break down how it works under the hood, see it solve a real-world problem, and then wrap up with why this is basically a new superpower for your developer toolkit. To really get why Apex Managed Sharing is such a big deal, we first have to talk about the tools we all use every single day. And, more importantly, we need to understand where they just fall short. Think of these as your standard set of keys. You've got org-wide defaults to set the baseline security. The role hierarchy opens things up vertically. Sharing rules are for all those predictable if this then that scenarios. And of course, manual sharing for the one-offs. And look, they're great. For static, well-defined access, they're perfect. But here's the million-dollar question. What happens when your sharing logic isn't simple? What if access isn't based on someone's role or a simple checkbox on a record? What if it depends on data from a totally different object? Let's look at this classic example. We've got a project object and it's private. Now, the rule is you only get to see a project if you are listed as a team member on a related project team member object. Standard sharing rules just can't do this. They have no way to peek into that related list to decide who gets access. They hit a wall. And that is exactly where we have to put down our standard keys and pick up a whole different kind of tool. We don't need another key. We need a programmable locksmith. And that locksmith is Apex Managed Sharing. When you boil it all down, the concept is actually pretty simple. We're just going to write some Apex code to create sharing permissions ourselves. We'll do it record by record for the specific users who need access at the exact moment they need it. So how does Salesforce even let us do this? Well, behind the scenes, any object that you can make private has this special buddy object, a share object. For the account object, it's called account share. For our custom project_C object, it's project_share. This is our playground.
Okay, so if we're going to build these permissions using code, what do we actually need? Let's pop the hood and look at the anatomy of one of these share records. It really just comes down to 4 critical pieces of information.
First up, parent ID. That's just asking, which record are we sharing? Easy. Second, user or group ID. Who are we sharing it with? Makes sense. Third, access level. What can they do with it? Read or edit. Simple. And finally, row cause. This is the one you really need to pay attention to. It answers the question, why does this person have access? Yeah, this row cause field is way more than just a description. It's a tag, a special label that tells Salesforce the origin story of this specific permission. Was it created by standard rule? Was it manual? Or was it something else? And that something else is us. For our code to work, we first have to go into the object setup page and create our own custom reason. This row cause is like our signature. It tells Salesforce, hey, this permission right here, this was created by my Apex code, so don't lump it in with the standard stuff. All right, enough Siri. Let's get back to our project puzzle and see how all these pieces click together to build a complete, automated solution.
Okay, check out the code. This is the heart of the solution, right inside an Apex trigger. We're just creating a new project share object. And look, it's exactly what we just talked about. We plug in the project's ID for the parent ID, the new team member's user ID for the user or group ID, we give them edit access, and this is the most important part, we set the row cause to that custom reason we created. Then we just insert the record. Done.
So let's just walk through that flow. Someone creates a new project team member record. That action fires our trigger. Our code instantly creates that special project share record. And bam! Just like that, the user now has edit access to that project. It's completely seamless.
But hold on, granting access is only half the battle. A good system has to clean up after itself. What happens when a team member is removed from the project? Well, our trigger needs to revoke that access. And this is where our custom row cause becomes our superhero. We run a super simple query to find the exact share record we created earlier using the project ID, the user ID, and our special row cause. This makes sure we don't touch any other permissions. Then we just delete it. So you see the beauty of this? The system completely manages itself. When a team member record is deleted, the trigger fires, our code finds its own share record, thanks to our custom row cause, and deletes it. Access is immediately and automatically revoked. It's always perfectly in sync.
Okay, now that you've seen the whole thing in action, from start to finish, let's zoom out and recap why this is such an essential superpower to have in your Salesforce developer tool belt.
Let's put them head to head. Standard sharing is your go-to for predictable access patterns, things you can configure with clicks in the UI based on roles and field values. Apex Managed Sharing is what you pull out for the complex, dynamic stuff, especially when access is driven by related records. It's not about one being better, it's about using the right tool for the right job. So, here's the bottom line. This is how you solve those impossible sharing puzzles. It's how you fully automate sharing based on related data and create a complete life cycle for access, both granting and revoking it. And that little row cause field is the secret key that makes the whole thing work safely. Oh, and one last pro tip. Always remember to bulkify your trigger logic, because creating these share records does count against your DML limits. So, I'll leave you with a question. Now that you've got this powerful tool in your arsenal, think about some of the tricky sharing requirements you've bumped into before, the ones you thought were maybe impossible or had to be handled manually. What doors can you unlock now? What elegant, secure, and automated solutions can you build?